This is Maria Marino. Number 10, West Virginia turned the ball over 3 times, falling to Oklahoma State 37-20. Other final scores in top 25 college football. Lamar Jackson got his 4th touchdown of the day on a pass to Jalen Smith with just 14 seconds left as number 5 Louisville escaped Virginia 32-25. Number 2 Michigan put away Michigan State 32-23, and number 24 Penn State took care of Purdue 62-24. Over to NFL, the Jacksonville Jaguars announced firing offensive coordinator Greg Olson, who's held the position since 2015. Jags are 2-5 on the season and last in the AFC South division. Indians lead the World Series 2-1 after a 1-0 win over the Cubs last night at Wrigley Field. Is manager Joe Madden concerned that his Cubs have lost 2 shutouts so far this series?
Of course, you don't anticipate or expect that, but this time of the year you see good pitching. That's what it is. It's when you get to the latter part of the season, you have to beat the best to be the best. We have seen good pitching, and I guess I did mention it in the pregame. That's the one component of our team that's going to blossom over the next couple of years is the offensive side.
Game 4 is tonight at 8 Eastern. Chicago's John Lackey taking the mound against Cleveland ace Corey Kluber. NBA action today. Hawks routed the 76ers 104-72. Paul Millsap, the high scorer with 17, but just one of 5 Hawks to reach double digits. Listen to NBC Sports Radio on your local station, online at NBCSportsRadio.com, or on the free mobile app. It's Maria Marino, NBC Sports Radio.
This is Kcaa.
Hello, this is Deputy Sheriff Paul Schrader. When principle, leadership, experience matters, Mike Safey is your first choice for Redland City Council and first on the ballot. I've known Mike Safey for years. He's a business owner, family man, and your first choice for Redland City Council.
When it comes to public or private service, Mike Safey has the experience in both worlds. Mike Safey's been a CEO for 20 years, owned a small business, employed dozens of people, and serves in key supervising roles for public safety and special investigations for the county. Mike's assisted in $80 million transportation and $110 million flood control budgets. Mike's a longtime community activist, contributes to our community of Redlands, and is the right choice on November 8th. Mike Safey is your first choice for Redlands City Council on the ballot. For more info, go to votemikesafey.com. That's votemikesafey.com.
I'm Mike Safey, and I approve this message.
You're listening to an encore presentation of this program on AM 1050 KCAA, the Inland Talk Express.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Perry.
And welcome. You are tuned into my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice, because I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon here at the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, California, Universal Broadcasting Network. And then every Thursday at 7, Saturdays at 1 on my syndicated CNBC News Radio channel, KCAA. AM 1050 on the dial, FM 106.5, and now everywhere on iHeartRadio and on YouTube, of course, for any of the past shows about hope and happiness, because there's no gossip, no scandal, no K words, and no T words. Actually, that's not true. Today we're going to do T, but no Kardashian talk at all on this show. Instead, I want you to focus on your life as a reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. And yes, I am going to start out with my peace shout outs. I had an amazing weekend in Catalina. for the Jazz Tracks Festival. Thank you, Art Good. And it was an amazing time, not just because it was fabulous music, but also because my friends were on stage, and I really ticked off the security people because I got to go backstage without the requisite stuff. Art, you didn't hear that. But here's some people I'd like to give a peace shout out to. My new twin sister, Keiko Matsui, my fabulous DW3 friends, Eric Darius and his beautiful fiance, Lynn, and Acoustic Alchemy, who I didn't get a chance because I had to leave real quick so I could make it back for my daughter's 17th birthday party bonfire on the beach. Happy birthday, darling Sarah. But I did get Spanish Lace. I was hoping for that song to come on before I left. So I'll be contacting you, Acoustic Alchemy, because I would love to have you on the show as well. And a peace shout out to Eric from Island Style Deliveries and Anna from Catalina Island Tours, who delivered me from my sore knee with rides around the island. Lola from Island Breeze Spa and Salon, who gives one great foot massage. And then finally, Becky, the sweet hostess from Jack's. Peace in and peace out to you. Thank you for making my weekend fabulous and memorable. And now on to this week's show. It is Marvin Gaye time. Yes, it is one of my favorite series on the show, which is the last week of every month. I bumped into someone at the yacht club racing, and he says, I have to be honest with you, I don't listen every week, but I always tune into the sexual healing series, which is the last week of the month, where I get transformed into the new Asian Dr. Ruth, and because I am determined to make pleasure a G-rated topic. And today, I am so pleased to have back one of the most popular by demand co-hosts on the series, and that is Davey Ward, who's an internationally recognized Tantra expert, certified tantric healer, certified Reiki practitioner, and tantric dakini of the Shangpa Kaiyu lineage. Davey's one of the first Westerners qualified to teach the Tibetan 5-element meditations, which stem from a 2,600-year-old lineage of Tibetan Tantric Buddhism, and apply them as a sexual healing modality. She's been featured as a Tantra and sexuality expert in countless articles in over 30 different radio and television networks worldwide, including Playboy Radio, Men's Health Magazine, CBS, NBC, and Rogers TV. She's an author and host of Sex is Medicine with Davey Ward podcast on iTunes and TuneIn. As a survivor of sexual abuse, her personal journey from stripper to monk to tantrika enables her to call upon her own experience of profound life transformation through tantra and sexual healing to help others find more pleasure in and out of the bedroom. Please welcome to the studio again, Miss Davey Ward.
Yay, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. Can you believe it's been, how many years we spoke together? What was it, 2012? No. 2014.
I think it was 2014.
2014.
When we first met.
That's right. And I saw you in a movie and chased you down from the movie at an orgasm conference.
How these paths cross.
I was doing research. Yeah, I swear. Anyways, so welcome back. And you have some news. First of all, happy birthday, dear Davey. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, what a beautiful voice you have.
Oh, thank you. I've actually been getting a lot of compliments lately because some people have realized that the song I play at the end of the show in my outro is actually me.
Oh my God. Yeah, you got a beautiful, beautiful voice.
Thank you. And not only is it your birthday, but you just informed me that you and we used to go out partying together as my single friend is no longer going to be able to go out with me as my single friend because you're getting married.
I'm actually getting married in 3 weeks.
That's okay. So the Reader's Digest abridged synopsis version because I purposely didn't ask you off the air because I wanted it on the air, because you've done 3-4 shows with me and we've been very single. So what happened?
Well, a wonderful man that I had been friends with for a year, and in a polyamorous relationship with for a year, him and his former partner. So we were all three in a relationship together. And then there was some difficulty in the relationship between those two, and we didn't have a connection for about 6 months. And then they broke up. And it had nothing to do with me whatsoever. I want to clarify that. That was between those two, and they decided to part ways amicably. And he and I, his name is Dr. Christopher Erickson, he and I started speaking again, became friends again, and very quickly discovered that we were absolutely, completely in love with each other. And so we've been together as a monogamous couple for a little over a year now. And in last April of 2016, he asked me to marry him, and I said yes. And we are eloping in 3 weeks. So we were going to wait until next July to get married, and we just decided, let's do it now. So we're going to the island of Victoria, or Vancouver Island, and we're going to get married in Victoria, BC, like I said, in a couple weeks.
Wow. And this is your first marriage?
No, this is my second marriage.
This is your second marriage.
But this is the first marriage that I'm like, I really want.
That you really want to get married?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And for those of you who have been following Davy and I's little escapades in single land, she's testament that, she's done a lot of healing work in her own life, her sexual healing work, using the expertise in Tantra to heal herself, as well as, helping other people. And it's possible to find a monogamous, beautiful marriage with someone that you care about.
Yeah, yes? and more than care about, like we're both, I mean, mutuality is like really high in this relationship. We're both like, oh my God, I get to be with you. Like, I'm the woman of his dreams. He's the man of my dreams. So, and it truly is to me a testament of the healing work that we've both done, that we're able to have this kind of relationship and love this deeply and completely and be this compatible. And, and I would say that, like, there's, difficulties in any relationship, but on a scale from 1 to 10, right? Most of the time we're at a 10, and I would say there's maybe 2% difficulties. At this point, like not very many, just little blips in the radar. And for me, that's really unique, because coming from a history of trauma and abuse, I used to interpret abuse as love. That was the way. So if I wasn't, having fights or getting abused or being treated poorly in relationship, I didn't feel loved. So that was one of the things that I really had to transform inside of myself, was that interpretation of that love equals abuse. So that had to heal inside of me. And literally, once that shifted inside of me, within a very short period of time afterwards, Chris came back into my life, and that's when our relationship began again.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, congratulations to you and Dr. Chris, and many, many, many happies.
Yes, and I went
in and out of the bedroom. In and out
of the bedroom. I went for my birthday. I went shopping for my wedding dress. So that was what I did for my birthday yesterday. It was fun.
So let me pry a little. So is he going to have an issue with what you do with other people? Or is this something that he's always been supportive of? Because, I mean, you get literally down and dirty with people in helping them achieve, multiple orgasms, and not intimately, but, your Skype sessions. And, I mean, your whole field is about sex, right? So he's cool with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's what I would call a tantric male. We practice tantra together, and he 100% supports the work that I do. He is a professor of political science at the University of British Columbia, And we're actually talking about writing a book together about the socio-political impact of infant male circumcision and how that impacts male beings on the level of, body, mind, and spirit, and then how that translates into our culture, creating a very violent culture. So we're talking about actually co-authoring a book.
Interesting. Interesting. And I think that's probably a great segue into the topic of today, which is sex and the election. I know in theory I'm supposed to be very unbiased as far as, and I've really kept my comments for the most part on other people's shows. I was on another show yesterday, the community show over at my CNBC syndicated network, Kcaa. And so I usually, spout off about my views in politics there and not here. But with all that has happened and with all that has not happened in our election with the T word, Mr. Trump's very noticeable biases against women, even though he says no one respects women more than he does, which is a scary statement for him to make, because the level of self-awareness obviously that he doesn't have is pretty amazing. I thought it would be important to address sexual healing, address, as a woman during this election, how we look and see and what this is doing to our society, as far as, we've come a long way, baby, or have we? And things like that. So with those opening hints at where I stand, why don't you go wherever you want to go?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I do think it is really important for, even though we want to maybe not publicize or dramatize what's going on with Trump, it would be easy to just kind of push him off to the side and ignore him. I think he raises some really good issues for us as a culture, because he's really shining the light on the depth of shining the light in the darkness.
Yes.
And so I would say that's a really positive thing that's come out of his campaign, is it's really allowed us to see as a society, like you said, we've come a long way, baby, or have we, right? It's made it impossible to ignore some of the issues having to do with sexism and misogyny and women's rights in this culture. It's made it impossible to ignore, because he's been such a role model for what we don't want, for the old consciousness that we are attempting to heal from. So in relationship to healing, exactly, he's a really beautiful example of the unhealed relationship between men and women, or masculinity and femininity in this culture, and what we believe we've transcended, and what we still need to transcend.
Yes.
So it's really demonstrated that clearly for us. So I would say that's a positive. That's a plus.
Yes. Yeah. And if you've just tuned in and you're wondering if I'm talking politics on my show, yes, I am. But it is also Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa Week. And my guest, again, is one of my popular co-hosts, Davey Ward. And we are talking about sex in the election and shining the light on the issue at hand around the healing that we still need to do in our society. And going off what you were saying, if the most positive thing we can say about Trump and what he has said is it is shining a light and illuminating how dark it is. So one of the things that I know that some people really like Trump because of his tell it like it is, especially people who hate political correctness, who hate having to measure what they're going to say, who hate having to be sensitive. And so his early, I think the early following, or the early, yes, I really like him because he says it like he tells it like it is. So the fear factor, I know when that started happening for me was, who are these people who are actually liking his blatant disrespect for women or the blatant disrespect for people of color. And what I want to separate out is, it is sometimes, yes, it is important to be authentic, but it is never okay, in my book, to be brutally honest. And as well, political correctness to me was, yes, it may have swung the pendulum too far this way, but we had to correct something that was too far this way. So I'm glad that there is sensitivity around the fact that he came back and he didn't apologize, and he dismissed it as locker room talk, as if that made it okay. But I'm so glad and am heartened by the reaction from many Republicans, actually, who said, no, it's not okay. And Dr. Phil will back me up on this. You cannot unring a bell. So if you're going to say something outrageous, you have to take responsibility for it. Yes, freedom of speech, but then take responsibility for it.
Well, yeah, and you make such a good point as far as political correctness. Like I chafe at the bit of political correctness too, because from my point of view, it actually suppresses honesty. There's a difference between, political correctness and like authenticity. And so what I find alarming is that yes, we all want the freedom to say what we feel authentically and honestly, but when what you're saying is poison and poisonous, you should be called upon it. Yeah, and not so that you can stuff that poison back down and then say it in a way that's less offensive. No, if that's, if what you're spouting is promoting sexually assaulting women, that's not just, I don't want to be politically correct. And that's not just locker room talk. And I think what many people, because he used, the P word and what some people would describe as foul language, they were able to just say, oh, that's locker room talk. But what's important isn't the words that he used, but what he was talking about.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if he said, what he said, I'll just grab him by the arm, or he said, well, I like to walk up to women, grab them without their consent, and touch them wherever I want to.
Yeah.
That's, that would be politically nice language, but what he's describing is a violation of human rights.
Yes.
That's what he's describing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what kind of language you use to describe that. It is wrong.
Yeah, it's the BS or the belief system behind the words
Exactly.
that's disturbing. It doesn't matter what you could use, very politically correct words, but the thought pattern, nasty woman. You could have said that wasn't nice if you didn't like what was said. But to say nasty woman is just reflecting a BS or a belief system that he has around women. And anytime they say something and he doesn't like it, they are then nasty. Or when someone says something that he doesn't like, he'll say, well, have you seen how she looks? Or do you see how much she weighs? Or, he doesn't even really have to say the words. You know that look on his face. So I am almost glad. I'm almost glad that he has been himself. I'm almost celebrating the fact that he has shown who he is. And now I get to do my forgiveness work and try to develop some compassion for him because that's my discipline. But I'm heartened by those, especially many Republicans who have now said, I can't do this, this takes it too far. And I'm also I'm sad, but I understand how some people still will excuse this behavior or excuse what he's saying. In psychology, we call it the groupthink. And when a group of people are so standing so strong in their belief system that they cannot allow any kind of alternative data to come in. Like there's, they can't even attend to it because it is so beyond what they have staunchly said. This is the way it is. And so the support that just sort of, I don't really care. They did a study. That's what happened in the Cuban Missile Crisis in the Bay of Pigs. So even though we knew it just didn't, there was no blipping on the radar because there was no ability to penetrate that shield of belief or so.
Yeah, and what I find alarming in this whole, the discussion of the locker room talk is I read a study that said 40% of people polled, and I can't remember if it was just Republican people or if it was like national poll, but 40% of people did not have a problem with what he said. That's alarming to me. If we're talking about 40% of this certain group of people think that what he said was okay.
Yeah.
Or was acceptable behavior, or wanted to just, again, brush it off as locker room talk. So, and again, I think this feeds into giving men a bad name, because there was this beautiful uprising of professional sports players and high school sports players and just men in general saying, not in my locker room. Like, we would never tolerate that kind of speech from a brother in our community. So that was beautiful to watch, how so many men stood up and said, this is not appropriate and this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
And that again, it wasn't about the words that he used, but what he was describing, the belief system behind the words. That was alarming and terrifying. Yeah. And I want to say, the whole, from beginning to end, I'm grateful that this is a straw that broke the camel's back for many people, but the degree of racism that was openly expressed from the beginning of the campaign, and the fact that it wasn't shut down to begin with by the entire Republican Party, again, is alarming.
Yes.
I don't care what we're talking. Someone said, well, it's about policies. Well, yeah, if your policy is racism, is the oppression of an entire group of people, that's terrifying, because we've already done this. We've done this so many times.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And we thought we've come so far, but we haven't. In doing some value and diversity work, we call it going underground. We think that things are better. Yes, you're translating things into two different languages in your marketing material, and you're teaching your employees how to not sexually harass, and you're teaching your employees to go to sensitivity, diversity training, but all that is doing is driving things underground. And so, on the surface, they're talking the right talk, but, that's like, I have a Chinese friend, or I eat Mexican food, and all of that kind of a defense. And then underground, what this election has really brought to the surface is how many people, that 40%, that really does not believe that all men are created equal, that does not believe in the charter of our country, that we are freedom, that we are in the pursuit of happiness, that we are, brothers and sisters together as all of that is at risk if he wins. The whole fundamental belief system that we've worked so hard to eradicate discrimination, to eradicate, bias and prejudice, all of that will be completely worse than it was before if he wins. That's such a, I'm not a registered a Republican. I'm not a registered Democrat, for those who are wondering. But I'll tell you, it's so impossible not to talk about the fear factor for me. I was born in Canada. I became an American. I was the first group to go through after 9/11. So I chose this. I chose this country to reflect where I wanted to live and who I wanted to be. So to have him come this far and continue to say the things he does and continue to have the support he does, I had no choice but to talk about this on the air.
Yeah, and I love what you said about going underground, because I think that's the thing that people revolt to about political correctness. Political correctness absolutely drives racism underground. That's why I'm against political correctness. The idea is that, the opposite of it isn't that I should have a license to like degrade people openly. It's not either or. It's not either I'm politically correct or I, vomit all over people about my beliefs.
Yeah.
It's about
There's
finding common
balance.
ground,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
It's the
the
balance.
idea is, though, I mean, me as a person of color, I would rather know right off the bat if you're racist. Like great, let me know what's going on. I would rather have you be honest and authentic with me about who and what you truly believe, as opposed to try and butter it up and cover it up with pretty language. That's what we've been doing in this culture for a long time. And racism and sexism, as we're seeing now, is rampant, and it's just been festering under the surface. So again, circling back to how we open this, the beautiful thing, the wonderful thing about Trump is that it's peeled the lid off of that festering, cesspool that's been there all the time, and it's exposed it. So when we see it, we can heal it. If we don't know it's there, we can't do anything about it. If we see it, we can heal it.
And it's disinfection time.
Exactly. It's disinfection time.
It is disinfection time. And it is time to speak up. And also, I think it is powerful when men speak up and say, it's not okay, this is not okay. But there is that underlying okayness that's a little scary, again, around even when the women were coming out and saying he was inappropriate with me or he violated me, and then his response, or some of the men that I have overheard say, it's not possible because did you see the way she looks, or did you see how big she was? And that again.
Well, again, and look at how beautiful that is. Look how beautiful that is, because in my opinion, a man who actually did respect women would say, oh wow, you know what? You're right. That was a really, I'm sorry. And if he truly didn't do it, wow, I'm sorry that you felt that way. There would be some empathy there. There would be some attempt to rectify a misperception. If that's what it was, if it was truly a misperception on her part, then there would be some attempt to rectify that. But instead, it was, again, degrading and suppressing, which feeds back into that whole sexist, misogynistic, mindset that is so beautifully being exposed. So it's kind of like, he can't hide who he is. So that's beautiful.
Right.
So we get a choice. We get to see, oh, this is who you are.
Right.
This is what you're about. You're broadcast all over. You can't hide it. So do we want to choose that?
Yeah.
Is that the American policy that we want to choose?
Absolutely.
Country, right?
Absolutely.
So it's beautiful. And, and I read a beautiful, speaking of healing, I read a beautiful article, I think I was sharing this with you the other day, from a man named Gabor Mate, who is a trauma specialist. He's actually a healing specialist. And he did an assessment of Trump because, he said that he prefaced it by saying, psychologists aren't supposed to, but you kind of can't help it in the case of, this election.
Yeah.
And what he shared was so beautiful that so much of the behavior that we're seeing from Trump is an expression of wounding. So I think that's really important for all of us to keep in mind, because it's so easy to hate him.
Yes.
And, to throw hate energy, but hate just makes more hate, right?
Correct.
And so having some empathy and some compassion from, wow, dude, you have to be seriously disconnected. You have to be so deeply traumatized to be able to interact and to view women in this way. And so if we really understand as a culture that this kind of behavior from men that we find so enraging and so painful is actually an expression of pain on their part, I think that's essential to healing that.
That's that bullies come from bullies. From being bullied.
Yeah. I mean, and we're all.
He's had a lot of trauma.
Yes. Well, obviously, and he's had a lot of trauma and a lot of privilege, which has allowed him to not have to actually deal with his trauma.
Yeah. Well, there's so much more, and we will be back, but it is time to thank the sponsors who make this show possible. So we'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in and peace out.
No way! I'm so cool. I'm so hot. I'm so hungry. I'm so full.
Did that complaining sound familiar to you? Hi, I'm Dr. Marissa, your cheerleader for hope and happiness 88% of the time. And they also call me the Asian Oprah. Well, I have a perfect app for you if you want to lose negative weight and stop complaining. Yes, the 21-day Fast from Complaining with Dr. Marissa app is now available. Every day you'll get a balanced tip that keeps you from complaining, as well as some sound effects. If you do complain and you press a button, it will give you sound to keep you from complaining. And if you make it the entire day without complaining, you'll get a nice warm. And there's a YouTube link also to help you not complain. And then at the end of the 21 days, because it takes 21 days to create a good habit, you'll get an overall score as well as a way to post your triumph with your friends and family on Facebook. So don't complain, have fun, and remember it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
Peace in, peace out.
And we are back. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at Naturally High Noon at Universal Broadcasting Network out of the Sunset Tower studios in Hollywood, California, and every Thursday and Saturday on my syndicated CNBC News Radio channel, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 106.5. And today it is the last week of the month, and so it is Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa, because I'm determined to make pleasure a G-rated topic. And my guest today is returned back by popular demand co-host Davey Ward, a sexpert in Tantra and more. And we have been talking about the T word, Trump, and the election and sex, and how far we have not come as society, but this is good news that we can return to it. And during that break, my fabulous sound engineer and co-producer of my call-in shows, Jarvis Essex, asked if we could talk about the flip side, and because it's all about balance, and that is, so I've been doing a little male bashing, for at least Trump bashing, but and you've been trying to bring it back and giving them some love and compassion. But let's talk about the women now who fall victim or choose men who are like him. So because you mentioned he was privileged, he has the money, he has the reputation, he has the power. So what is it about women and what we need to heal when we are attracted to that and we put ourselves in situations to be groped or to be assaulted? Like, I'm not talking about people who are innocently, and cornered. But I am talking about a genre of women, myself included, who are attracted to powerful men who, not all powerful men have those belief systems, but I would say many do. So what part of us, and I'll own it, is still attracted to that? What is it that we need to heal? Where we meet maybe a man who is more gentle or is very caring or very mama's boy, if you for lack of a better descriptor, they do treat women respectfully. And I've heard women say, myself included, oh, he's a little wussy, or he's too nice. There you go. He's too nice.
Wow.
So yeah, a great question. Thank you, Jarvis.
That's a great question, and it ties into actually like how we open this with my upcoming marriage. So my husband to be is a very gentle man. He has no violence in him. And so when I previously used to interpret violence as love, I had a friend of mine say, hey, well, what about Chris? Do you ever think you and Chris could get together? I think he was out of relationship with his previous partner at that time. But like, well, what about Chris? Because I knew I was looking for a guy. And I was like, yeah, no, he's too nice. He's too soft, right? And so again, that was my perspective. That was my view on love was born out of trauma. So, I use that word a lot, but we really cannot underestimate. I think, so the impact of trauma and the subtle ways in which it is embedded within us is not widely understood by the mainstream. Trauma specialists understand it and they speak to it, but not everyone's watching trauma specialists, right?
Right.
So we really, as a mass consciousness, we really don't understand how easily it is to be traumatized and how all of us are walking around with some degree of trauma. And so one of the foundational traumas is something called attachment trauma. And this comes, this is instilled within us from zero, from just being born until, usually age 7 and beyond. So those early childhood experiences of not having our needs for love, connection, whatever they were, met sufficiently causes trauma. It causes it damages us in certain ways. And so I think this, I know at least for me that played a huge part in my interpretation of what love was and what it wasn't. And when I was able to heal that and transform that inside myself, then I was actually able to receive the love of this beautiful, brilliant, amazing, gentle man who I'm now going to marry. So I think that's part of it. But I also think our society is toxic. Our society presents to us a toxic version of masculinity. And this harms both men and women in this culture. Because men are conditioned to, what are you as a man? You're hard, you're tough, you're a go-getter, you can roar. Men don't cry, men don't feel emotions. Men aren't allowed to be sensual. Men are supposed to have a if you don't, then it isn't you haven't really had sex, right? So everything in our culture really programs both males and females to understand masculinity in this way that is actually really degenerative and really, really toxic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. It makes sense both from the male perspective and from the the t-shirts that say, if I go into a room where there's 100 men, I'm going to end up with the one who's a wife beater or a playboy or a woman disrespecter. I always end up with that one. Like in 99 nice men, I'm going to be attracted to the one who is bad for me. And that the attachment theory or the trauma that you speak of makes sense. Now, how do we, because I'm all about balance and about healing, so how do we heal from that? Do we blame whoever the trauma came from, the boyfriend who left me, the father that abandoned me, the mother that abandoned? Do we go there, or do we say that was then, okay, and I forgive and I understand that they did the best that they could. Now it is up to me to heal my wound. And do you remember the caller we did on this? She was complaining about a guy who treated her really badly, remember? And I said, instead of, have you asked him this, or have you told him that, or how it impacts you? That wasn't the question, or that wasn't the answer. The answer is, how do you see yourself so that you're attracting someone who treats you poorly? So how do you not love yourself enough to stay in a situation where you're being treated like crap? So the healing is here, like, right, all fingers pointed, me, myself, and I. And how do I see myself? So I'm answering the question. How do you stop being attracted to men that are going to treat you like crap? Is you look and see and believe and view yourself as the beautiful inside and out woman that deserves being treated well by men. That's how we start. That's where the healing starts. Because if I feel that way, then I am going to say, no, you cannot say nasty woman at the drop of a hat with no filter and say that that's okay. You cannot say that you attack women because you can do it. It's not okay to say that. And I can stand on the platform because I know that I am a woman of value 88% of the time. I still wake up with fat and ugly attacks 12% of the time. But 88% of the time, I know that just because my husband didn't treat me the way that I, could stay in that situation with doesn't mean that I am what he saw me as. I am more than that. But I can't blame him for that. I have to look at me.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, because that's the thing for anyone who's been in an abusive relationship, and I'm going to say not being celebrated in a relationship is, it's a subtle form of abuse, but people who have been in, whether physically or verbally or emotionally abusive relationships, that's one of the greatest pains for them, is having left that relationship and then going through their own healing processes. Wow, why did I let myself be treated that way? And that's a pain, and that's a grief, and that's a mourning that we have to all go through. And yes, we are responsible for taking care of ourselves. And that being said, it is never okay, regardless of what's going on, it's never okay for somebody to be abusive to us.
Yes.
It's not. There's no
Right.
situation in which that is ever okay, right?
There's never, it's not justifiable.
And so, circling back to what you said to begin this part of the conversation with, which is, if you walk into a room of 100 men, why is it that you're going to attract the one that's going to treat you poorly? Well, because we attract that which we need to heal, right? So that's the beautiful thing about relationships. I mean, psychologists say this all the time. Basically our adult relationships, we're trying to heal our wounding from our parents.
Correct.
So when we see this repeated pattern in our lives over and over and over again, we've got to point the fingers back to ourselves, like you said.
Yeah.
And thinking, oh, I'm a woman who deserves, better, that's a nice thought, but we actually have to do the inner work to get to, where did that core belief form? In my early childhood, we formed a belief about ourselves that we were not worthy of love.
Yes.
And we can't just snap our fingers and change that. We actually need to do the work. And the work for you is going to be, what it is for you. For me, it was Tantra. It was somatic sexual healing. For me, it was about spirituality and consciousness, as well as counseling, right?
Yeah.
So whatever your medicine, it's up to you to explore and find the medicine that resonates with you, and that is actually going to give you the results to transform that core belief. And keep in mind, these core beliefs these are part of our basic personality.
Yeah.
It's
core.
We live with this core belief from birth.
Yes.
Chances are.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I do career days. I love it. And warping young minds. But I always ask, at every age, how many of you have a voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough or you're not worthy enough? And the 6-year-olds don't know what I'm talking about. 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds is when, and they can be from a beautifully healthy, loving, nurturing home, and they somehow pick up this lie that I'm not beautiful, especially young girls, not beautiful, too fat, whatever. And we can blame society. I think that's the original sin. That's the disconnect between who we really are and the beauty that we really are, and somehow allowing the messages or the BS or the belief systems that whatever is coming at us, or what we're told by well-meaning critical people who aren't very well-meaning, they become the foundation of our belief systems about ourselves. Lisa Nichols was on my show. If you haven't heard it, I'm talking to my listeners right now. She has things that she writes on her wall when she couldn't afford diapers, and then she's now this money mogul who helps a lot of people. But her suggestions in that show are really good. So go to YouTube and just Dr. Marissa and Lisa Nichols. But that healing process is what I want for everybody who's listening, every single man and woman, but especially women. This whole series was started from that statistic. Up to 85% women fake orgasms. Why do we fake orgasms? Many different reasons, but one of them is, we don't feel good about attending to ourselves, or that we have a right to feel good, or that we have a right to come to orgasm, that we have a right to have pleasure. And that belief system, that underlying subconscious or conscious systemic belief, then allows our society to continue to have that message of, woman, you have your place.
Exactly.
And then we accept that. and we don't fight it, and we don't stand up, and we don't say, what? I don't think so.
Or we overlook it. We push it to the side and minimize it. Oh, that's just locker room talk. And we do that in so many different ways in this culture as females, how we allow sexual assault to occur, or subtle forms of sexual violence, which are so normalized in this culture, and we're taught to just, don't take it so seriously. Like being catcalled, being slut shamed, jokes about women and their bodies and the way they smell, and we're told to just kind of brush it off like water off the duck's back. As opposed to actually, wait a minute, that is sexual violence. Talking about my body and my genitals in that way is violent for me to hear.
Yeah. So, and men, many men, not all men, but many men see that as it's not that big of a deal, as you mentioned, or I was just kidding, and it's don't be so sensitive, or don't be so serious. And, doing the classes that I did at Mattel and First Interstate Bank and LA County, it was all around. It's not, what is wrong with me complimenting someone? It's a compliment. What is the big deal? I'm just telling them they have a nice top on. And it's and trying to explain, it may not be offensive to you, but if 100 times someone went to you and went, that's a really nice pair of pants. And many of my men, God bless them, still didn't get it. They couldn't understand, still saw it. And so I had to get to the point, and if you're a guy and you're listening and you don't understand what the big deal about compliments is, or the big deal about being called a lady, or a big deal about being called whatever it is, my request to you is, even if you don't understand it, just see it as something that is respectful. If someone asks you to not use a term, just, do you want to connect with them or not? It's just feedback for them saying to you, this is how you respect me. Can you just change and shift a little bit? And we're not asking you to learn every single term that is correct, because the terms change, and that's the extreme of the political. It's not about being right. It's about being respectful. And if someone has the I was going to say balls, if someone has the courage to say, that really kind of sets me off, then it's an invitation to connect. That's it. That's it. Do you want your intent to be respectful to match your impact of being respectful? That's all it is. It's about being effective. It's not about, being politically correct. It's about being effective. That's the challenge. Do you want to piss off 1,000 women with one statement? Then say what Trump says.
Well, and very often, that's a beautiful point, and very often, from my point of view, it's not the words that are said. It's again, it's the BS. It's the energy behind it. So I've had compliments from males and females that are just like, oh, you look really beautiful today. And I'm like, great, thanks. I look really beautiful. That's nice to hear. That makes my ears happy, right? Or I've had like, wow, you've really good today. And so what I'm responding to in that statement, again, isn't the words. I'm responding to the energy, right? And at this point in my process, I often will, know how to like engage and respectfully set boundaries with that person. But the point is, again, when we're talking about, being too sensitive, the thing to keep in mind is that we are responding to energy. And that's the thing that people who want to say, oh, you're being too sensitive, don't want to be accountable for. They don't want to be accountable that what we're detecting is actually malintent. What we're detecting is actually harmful. And so again, it isn't the word specifically, though that may play into it, because words can be triggering, right? But it's where that expression is coming from. And that's what we're finding. That's what we're objecting to. That's what we're finding harmful. And we're pointing it out so that there can be healing, not to make you wrong and not to be like, oh, not to man bash. I love men. We're pointing this out so that there can be healing. So that we can both, as males and females, be accountable for the multitude of ways in which we cause each other harm unknowingly and unwittingly. There's a lot of shaming about men and their genitals. I did an episode recently on Sex is Medicine TV about eyes, right? And and some of the stuff that females say about men, and it's painful. Like that's horrible. That's as bad as what Trump said.
And that's where we're gonna have to do another hour
Yeah.
I'm
On that. Yeah, exactly.
on that one. Yeah, thank you so much, Davey. We are out of time, but it has been scintillating as usual. I'm going to have to go back and see if I have to video edit some of that for my FCC rules. But thank you so much. How do we find you? You've changed your website, I think.
Yeah, we're rebranding. So I am still at davyWardTantra.com, but we're shifting everything over to AuthenticTantra.com, and we're getting ready to launch a really amazing online video education program for females and couples to cultivate their full pleasure potential. So head on over to AuthenticTantra.com, and we have some free gifts for you there, female pleasure guide, and all sorts of fun stuff.
And there's your Asian Oprah of the Day giveaway. So you can do that. I have a couple more, but go to AuthenticTantra.com and say Dr. Marissa sent me, and you will get some free gifts there. Thank you so much, Davey.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone, for listening and joining us.
And it's a quick balance bar to end the show. Thank you to Orange County Business Journal for the kind words on page 2 and an invitation to their OC 500 cocktail reception. You can buy OC Business Journal anywhere around in Orange County. Round 64 of the 21-day Fast from Complaining starts up on November the 1st. And yes, I've been running this Good Life Habit Racket online since July 1st, 2011. Join the over 10,000 now who are trying not to complain for 21 consecutive days. If you register at 4balance.org and do 21 days, you will win a free pack of my motivational cards, 52 card Pick Me Up Stacking the Deck for Life Balance with Dr. Marissa. Or you can just go buy it at my Balance Marketplace or the app. The one you saw in the promo. It's only $1, made by teenagers, and helping you to not complain, because that's something we can do to bring more positive energy onto the planet. Also, a big thank you to RJ Peterson for his continued support. If you'd like to partner with me and actually be one of the benefactors behind the app, just go to GoFundMe.com /HRAXLO. Second Asian Oprah giveaway. Thank you to PJ in New York planning Bob Proctor's lifetime tribute at Carnegie Hall. I have another pair of tickets valued at over $500 to give away. First one to like Dr. Marissa and then message me with I Love New York will get the tickets. Congratulations to Melanie, John, and Catherine, who've already won after last week's wisdom interview with Bob Proctor and Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. You can watch it now on YouTube as well. This weekend, I've been invited by the Compassionate California organization to speak at their Compassion in Action. How do we keep it honest and civil youth summit for young people 13 to 25? There's still time to register. Details at my Dr. Marissa Facebook page. Also, this weekend, don't miss Voices of the Unheard, a spoken word theatrical performance of poetry and prose of children and teens detained in the juvenile justice system. Performance will honor Supervisor Antonovich and others who are interested not in the detention but in the healing of our system. Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Agape International Spiritual Center. For tickets, go to www.agapelive.com or Voices of the Unheard on Facebook. Also, on my Facebook today, you will get a replay of the Global Oneness Summit. That was the last 2 days. Fantastic speaking panels. Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, Neil Donald Walsh, Matthew Fox, Joan Borsi, Deepak Chopra. So free for only for the next 24 hours. So give Dr. Marissa the finger, a like, and you'll get it there. Also next week, I am happy to mark Veterans Day this year with an organization I accidentally found online called Veterans for Peace, which is right up my Balanced Life alley. And we will be broadcasting live on Election Day, and found this great article on USA Today saying blue blood, red blood, how do we heal after the election? So on Election Day, I have two fabulous women coming on. Soraya, who is the founder of Muslim Women Speakers, and her best friend, a Jewish woman who's an author as well. And the two of them are going to help us with the healing across differences. So keep yourself tuned to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balance with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
listening to KCAA, Loma Linda, California. The best station in the nation.